This is You're Probably Right. Entertainment first, everything else is just bonus. Opinions, all ours. Sometimes backed by research, but never the final word. There are always exceptions, so take it with a grain of salt and a slight dusting of chili powder. If something in this episode resonates with you or you want to reach out directly, you can email the show at yprpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find the podcast on Facebook. Just search You're Probably Right podcast and the page should come up. And if you are listening somewhere other than Spotify, you can find the show there as well. Just search You're Probably Right and follow the podcast so new episodes show up automatically. All right.
Hey, y'all. What's up? This is MCM, and you're listening to You're Probably Right podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me. Just a different little beginning there, trying it for the first time. Email me, yprpodcast@gmail.com if you have a question or if there's something that you would like me to talk about, that you think that I'm qualified to talk about. Or, maybe there's a question that you've always had from a previous episode, MCM, why are you such a, like, you know what I mean? Anyhow, we're going to get right into it. I remember these episodes are for entertainment purposes only. You know what I mean? I'm going to leave it like that. I know that I always over explain that. I don't know why I do that. I think it's that habit of helping. And, and the thing is, when you have a habit of helping, although helping is a good thing, but I guess having a helping or having a addiction to helping or fixing things, sometimes it comes off as if you're degrading the person you're helping, because sometimes they don't need that intense amount of help, even if they do need your assistance in some way, shape, or form. So that's just a learning lesson, and I'm probably just thinking out loud. And I probably just did it again. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then cool. All right, let's move right on. Listen, there is a version of being a good person that nobody warns you about. Not the obvious stuff, not kindness, not decency. The quiet version. The version where you are agreeable enough, steady enough, capable enough that people slowly stop checking where the line is with you. They do not announce it. They just go a little further each time, at work, in relationships, in families. You notice it only in hindsight. It's so slight because nothing dramatic actually happens. You're not mistreated in a way that you can actually pinpoint or point to. You're just slowly repositioned, almost just adjusted, like somebody has a big enough hand that they just take you by the waist and kind of move you over here slowly. You know what I mean? What people call nice is often just predictable. And predictable people are easy to manage because you know what you're going to do, or they know. That is where this gets uncomfortable. But I mean, I'm here with you. And remember, a lot of the stuff that I talk about, it's from years of making mistakes and experience. So don't feel judged. Please, if I ever sit on here and, on this little soapbox and seem like I'm killing you softly with my words or whatever it is, it's not that. Okay. Please don't think that. Because some people are not confused. They're calculating. Some people are not careless. They're climbing. What are they climbing, you say? Some people do not dislike you. They just like themselves a lot more. And if you have ever been valued, truly valued, then watch that value shift without explanation. You know exactly what I'm talking about. One day you're admired, listened to, chosen, and then the tone changes all of a sudden. You think it's a one-off, but nope, if you even recognize it. The effort changes, the attention changes. And instead of walking away, what do? Act more stupid. No, you try to fix it. You show up more, you explain more, you try to remind them who you were when things were good. And that's the trap. Because once somebody has moved you into their internal ranking, you cannot talk your way back. Mm-mm. It's not about age. It happens to young people all the time and old people. But young people tend to blame themselves faster. They think they did something wrong when really the situation changed. And nobody teaches you how to respond when respect shifts quietly instead of breaking loudly. So you stay, you adjust, you keep things smooth. You slowly, without noticing, you start living a step behind your own life. Not angry, not dramatic, just slightly out of position. This is not a talk about being hurt. We've been there, right? It's a talk about learning how people actually behave, not how you wish they behaved. And once you see that, you stop asking the wrong questions. You stop asking, why did this happen? You start asking, why did I stay once it was obvious? That is where things change. You see, there is something people do not like to admit out loud, really. Not everyone who smiles at you is rooting for you. And I think sometimes we don't even want to admit that. Like, why would somebody be that way, right? Some people admire you only while they feel safely ahead of you. Some people like you only when they do not have to compare themselves to you. And some people praise you as a way of keeping you in a box that they can understand. It sounds harsh, right? But it's normal human behavior. It was foreign to me a while ago, I can tell you that much. I think it was probably, for me, it would probably be because of growing up the youngest in a family of four kids. Just in my family of four kids. I can't say every family of four kids is like mine, and I was the youngest, right? Competition does not always look like competition. Sometimes it looks like encouragement. Sometimes it looks like friendliness. Sometimes it looks like calling you nice, calm, grounded, easy to work with. And funny enough, sometimes those same people insult you in front of higher ups and bosses and other coworkers and try to make you feel dumb. Strange. Buddy buddy by yourselves, but as soon as they see you getting ahead almost face to face in front of somebody, they switch up on you even if your intent wasn't what they were thinking. But I know not everybody deals with that, but yeah. But many of those people, you know, friendliness, encouragement, calmly grounded, they're calling you. It's not insults, but they're neutral. They're not neutral, I should say, either. Because when people label you that way consistently, what they are really saying is, you are not a threat to me. I know where you stand. I am comfortable with you staying right there. And this shows up everywhere. At work, someone compliments you or compliments how reliable you are while quietly stepping past you in relationships. In relationships, someone adores you steadily until they stop choosing you. In friendships, people like your presence, but do not want your growth. And quick, a lot of the time, to put you back in your place if they see or feel or fare. And then thinking about that, when admiration turns into comparison, behaviors change, not dramatically, suddenly, or subtly, I should say. Support becomes silence, warmth becomes distance, compliments turn into backhanded comments, or they disappear altogether. And if you're not looking for it, you miss the shift. Sometimes it's as simple as somebody always trying to be even Steven with you, or one upmanship, or tell a better story, or all of a sudden turn rigid, and what you're saying couldn't possibly be true. Because you're still being treated politely, it's really hard to see that shift. You are still included, still spoken to, still considered, technically. But something has moved. People like to believe jealousy is loud and obvious. It isn't. Real jealousy is quiet. It does not confront, it repositions. It stops offering, it stops advocating, it stops meeting you where you used to meet each other. And the mistake people like us make is assuming it's accidental. We think maybe they're just busy, you know? Maybe they're stressed. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. So we respond by being even more accommodating. We soften, we adjust, we make it easier for them. And that is where things tilt in the wrong way. Because accommodation in the face of comparison doesn't restore balance, it just confirms it. If someone feels behind you, your presence can make them uncomfortable. If someone feels threatened by your competence, they won't say it. They'll quietly reduce your influence one way or the other, or another. They will start to somehow figure out a way to limit your access. They will keep things surface level. They will make sure you are useful, but not powerful. This is not about bad people. It is about people protecting their position. I had somebody once swear blindly that me and them, or them and I, did something as a project together when I know that I spent hours getting things together, putting things together by myself, and showing up 3 hours before they did to do a certain task. And if nobody ever taught you to recognize that, you end up doing something backwards. You try to reassure them when things go off. You downplay yourself, you make yourself smaller, you explain that you are not competing. But here's the truth nobody likes to hear, really. Once someone is competing with you internally, reassurance does not help. It just tells them you're willing to fold. The people who keep rising are not the loud ones. They are the ones who stop negotiating their position and take it. And act in it, and work in it, and move in it, and operate in it. And the people who keep getting stuck are often the ones who believe being liked is the same as being respected, and they're not the same thing. People like their shoes. Someone can like you and still hold you back. Someone can admire you and still want you contained. Someone can praise you and still believe if you do not and be relieved if you don't advance. Not everybody wishes you well, but not everybody hates you either. But at the same time, it's hard to accept these things for some of us, especially if you grew up believing effort speaks for itself, not position just because you are this or that. Effort does speak, although it seems to be changing in society these days. It just doesn't always speak in your favor because effort without leverage gets interpreted as interpreted as availability. And availability is not valued the same way that presence is. This is where people start to feel confused, I think. They think, I did everything right, I stayed solid, I didn't play games, and they're right. They just misunderstood the environment that they were in. Some spaces reward growth, some spaces tolerate it, some spaces quietly resist it. And if you stay in the wrong one too long, it changes how you see yourself. You start to be affected, not because you're weak, but because you trusted the wrong signals. This is the moment where most people either get bitter or get smarter. And this talk is not about bitterness. It is about learning how to read the room before the room decides for you. There's a moment, well, there's many moments a lot of time, but there's moments where people generally can't really mark clearly. It's not a breakup, it's not a fight, it's not a blow up. Those are easy, right? It's the moment when effort stops coming towards you. Not all at once, just enough that you start to feel or start filling gaps. And that's how it begins. When you are valued, things move towards you naturally. You hear that? When you are valued, things move towards you naturally. Do you understand? It's like if you, I don't know, had a gold bar in your hand and you know that dropping it, or a diamond, and you knew that dropping it would damage it or lower the value of it. And you do everything you can to make sure that you hang on to that diamond, that gold, right? Time, attention, initiative, keeping it safe. You don't have to chase it though. You respond to it. But when that shift, you feel it before you understand it. But when that shifts, I said sorry. I should have said sorry. Messages slow down. Plans become vague. You're no longer the first call. You're just an available one. You get it? I know that probably sounded a little confusing there for a sec, so I apologize. But when things do shift, I'm telling you, messages will slow down. Plans become, well, what are you doing? I don't even know what you're doing. You're no longer the first call. There's someone else on tap now. But you are available, and they know you are, so we'll just keep you over there. And the dangerous part is not changing. It's Well, the worst thing I could say, honestly, is what people do next. They start compensating, right? They reach out more, they explain more, they try to recreate tones that no longer exists, or try to speak to a person that no longer exists because people switch, code switch, switch up, change up. Not because they're desperate, because they remember how it felt when things worked. And that memory becomes the hook that keeps them coming back for more. In relationship, someone who once chose you easily now hesitates. At work, someone who once backed you quietly steps aside. Like the koi pond situation, for those of you Office fans. In friendships, the energy that used to feel mutual becomes uneven. And instead of asking, why did this shift? You ask, what do I need to do to get that back? That question is the trap. Because once someone has placed you in the optional category, effort does not pull you out. It pushes you deeper in. You get more invested. When someone values you, they protect you, right? They keep you close. They keep chasing, keep you safe, keep you warm, keep you protected, wrap you in bubble wrap if they could. When they stop, they manage access to you. That's different. And that is the difference. Optional people are useful, but not prioritized, right? As you. Optional people are liked, but not invested in. Optional people are kept around, but not chosen. And the reason this confuses so many people is because nothing bad is actually really happening. Do you get that? Let me say that again. I know you can run it back, but I'm going to see if I can pull it out again. Listen, pause. Flagrant, whatever. When someone values you, they protect you. They protect access to you. When they stop, they manage access to you. That is the difference. Optional people are useful, but not prioritized. Optional people are liked, but not invested in. Optional people are kept around, but just not chosen. And the reason this confuses so many people is because nothing bad is actually happening. You're not mistreated, mostly. You are just no longer being selected. You're like those Martians in Toy Story saying, pick me, or Shrek, that DVD back in the day. And trust me, when you're not being selected, it feels worse than being mistreated. It's kind of strange. At least you can call it, at least you can fight back. In not being selected, you're just not selected. You just sit there and wait, like a kid being picked last for a team, or picked last for a team and the team has side eye while picking you. Okay, come on. Gee. Because you can't pinpoint a villain usually. You can't argue your way out of it. You can't confront it without sounding dramatic, of course. You're too emotional. So you stay quiet. You tell yourself you're being patient. You tell yourself things ebb and flow. You tell yourself you're reading too much into it. And maybe you are in certain situations, which also makes it more confusing when it's not even constant in real diabolical situations. but your body usually knows before your logic catches up. You get a little twitch and you look to really hone in and see what's going on, right? Think about it. There's a specific feeling when this happens. You feel slightly behind the interaction, right? You feel it and then you look, right? You're behind. You're behind time. Like singing a song that you don't know very well, but you love it so much that you're trying to sing the words. You're always a split second behind because you're trying to sing what the person is saying, right? Like you are responding instead of participating. You got it? In what's actually happening. You're just responding to what's happening. Like you're keeping something alive that no longer has its own momentum. And it's not your imagination, it's data. Here is the part we don't like to admit. People don't usually downgrade you because you did something wrong. They downgrade you because their needs change. That sucks. Yeah. It's sometimes as simple as their needs have changed, and whatever you're providing, it's cool and all, but it ain't it, as they would say. They found something easier. They found something shinier, better looking, better in shape, moves faster, is stronger, curvier, better to look at. Something that requires less effort for them. Or they simply realized they could. Hmm. Once someone learns they can pull away without losing you, the dynamic has already decided. At that point, you're not in a relationship. You're just in a holding pattern and you're probably holding on for dear life. And the most common mistake people make here is thinking endurance will be rewarded. Man, in that situation, endurance just means you're wasting your time. They think, if I stay consistent, if I stay solid, if I stay available, eventually things will turn my way. But you know what? It rarely does, because what you're really teaching in the moment is not loyalty. You are teaching replaceability. That sounds harsh, I know, but it's how people learn where you stand. This is not about blame. Most people don't even wake up planning to devalue someone. They simply respond to it. They just kind of, whatever you do, they respond to it like incentives. And if you continue offering access without selection, the lesson is clear. You will stay even when I do not choose you. Oh boy, that is not love, that's convenience. And convenience does not reverse itself. This is the point where people usually feel embarrassed. That's okay. Been there. So you don't need to be embarrassed with me for sure. Maybe somebody who's sitting beside, but not me. So, you look back and you think, why did I keep trying like an idiot? And that's me talking to me. I mean, when you try, you get looped into something and you try like 9 times, right? But that shame is honestly misplaced. You were responding to a previous version of a relationship. You were loyal to what things used to be. You were acting in good faith. The mistake was not caring. The mistake was assuming that caring changes the outcome when positioning has already shifted. Once someone moves you to an optional, right, instead of necessity, the only thing that changes is the dynamic. In the dynamic is movement, not chasing, not explaining, and not proving. Movement, because optional only works when you stay available. And that's where the story changes. Not in anger, not in confrontation, but in what you stop doing, stop providing. And the reason I can tell you guys, like, well, why chasing past versions of people never works. Listen, there's a specific kind of hope that gets people stuck. It's not optimism, it's not memory. You're not chasing the person in front of you, you're chasing the version of them that once chose you freely. And that's why it feels reasonable. Because you've been there before. You've been down that road, right? That rodeo. You remember how easy it used to be. Sorry, guys. How natural it felt. How little effort it actually required before. That was then. This is now. Yesterday's price is not today's price, as they say. So when things change, you assume the goal is to get back there, right? You think, if I show them consistency, if I remind them who I am, King Kong, no, just joking. If I stay present long enough, something will click, right? Now, that belief is powerful because it's not based in fantasy, right? It's based on experience. You have proof that it exists. Maybe you have pictures, video, who knows? And that's what makes it actually dangerous. What most people miss is this: people do not drift away from versions of you, they drift toward versions of themselves. They prioritize change, or their priorities, they change. Their incentives change, their tolerance for effort changes. And once that happens, no amount of familiarity pulls them backward. Yeah, that sucks. When you chase a past version of someone, right? You're doing something, something subtle. You are negotiating with history. You are hoping memory will override present reality. But memory does not drive behavior. Position does. You may have had that position before, but now you in the back seat. You ain't in the front no more. You ain't driving nothing. You just here for the ride. And that's because I let you. You know what I mean? When someone has moved you out of the center and put you over on an orbit, the rules change. You know what I mean? You were the center, you were the sun, man. Now you're over here orbiting. I'm the sun. You stop being responded to, you start being managed. And they're going to manage you as easy as possible, as little as effort as possible, so they can put their efforts in the place that they value more. And that's the reality. So they reply when it's convenient, they engage when it suits them, they keep you close enough to access, but far enough to control the pace. And here is the uncomfortable part if you're not already comfortable or not already uncomfortable. Chasing work, chasing works just enough to keep you trying. Doesn't that suck? See, people will say that to people all the time that, don't chase. They won't, they won't this, they won't that. But the joke is when you really, really got it good, chasing helps just enough to keep you trying, but not enough to satisfy them at all. At all. So they give you small moments, brief warmth. Oh, yeah. Occasional reminders of how things used to be. Not because they're cruel, because they don't want to lose access to you completely for whatever reason. So that creates the loop, right? You invest more, they offer less. See how that works? You interpret that as temporary imbalance instead of checking and realizing that that's the new arrangement. And the longer you stay in that loop, the harder it becomes to leave. And you realize how much you give and how much you lose, and how much of bad shape you're in when everything is all said and done. Because leaving feels like admitting something died without a fight. People don't like to do that. People want closure, people want understanding, they want a reason why. It feels fair, right? But most endings do not come with explanations. They come with silence. Yeah. Distance. Ooh, distance. Reduced effort. Oh, yeah, we love that one. And chasing is often just an attempt to force meaning out of something that has already moved on and lost meaning. If someone wanted to return to how it was, simple enough they would. You hear that? If someone wanted things to be the way they were, they would just simply change. They don't, because things have shifted already. You wouldn't need to convince them. You wouldn't need to remind them how things were. You wouldn't need to keep proving your value and proving your love. Desire does not need maintenance manuals. Desire is desire. If you're hungry, you're hungry. Interest does not need persuasion, right? Just see it in yourself. If you're really into someone, you don't need anybody to convince you you're into them, right? You're just into them, straight up. When effort becomes one sided, the answer is already there. The problem is not that people do not see this, it's that people resist it and don't want to believe it. How could this be? You know, the romantics, the people who hope in the world. Because stopping feels cold, stopping feels unnatural, stopping feels like giving up, stopping feels like losing something that actually matters. But continuing costs a whole lot more. Time, self-trust, it costs ability to read situations clearly next time. And this is where people confuse dignity and detachment. You don't stop chasing because you don't care. If you're trying to work yourself up to not caring, did you hear that? You're going to work yourself up to not caring. You care. How are you going to work yourself up to not caring? You're going to find more truth? Go ahead. Listen, you stop because you care about not losing yourself in the process. That's it. Self respect. There is a difference between persistence and misalignment. Persistent moves forward together. Misalignment pulls in opposite directions, right? Like a car, right? And no amount of effort is actually going to fix it. You're going to always have to put in that effort. Think about a car. If your tires are misaligned, you're always going to have to be riding the course. You're going to always have to be pulling it back to the center. You got to pull it. Why? Because your misalignment, the tires want to go that way. And you, no matter how much you're pulling it, it's not going to all of a sudden be, okay, now we're on a straight road. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's not about being hard, callous. It's about being honest with what's happening in front of you and to you. Once you understand that, well, something will shift inside of you, and something that shifts inside of you will shift outside of you. You stop asking, how do I get them back? And you start asking, why am I trying to resurrect something that's dead? That question doesn't feel good. Maybe you're just used to them, right? Or the situation. But it is clean. And clean questions lead to cleaner exits, not dramatic ones, not just, Just you move on. It's just quiet. Most people think they know the difference, but most of the time they don't. Because being chosen and being convenient can look identical at first. Both involve contact, both involve time together, both involve access. The difference is not how often someone reaches out, though. It's who moves first, and who adjusts when things get complicated, right? When you are chosen, effort flows towards you, even when it's inconvenient. When you are convenient, however, effort reaches you only when it fits neatly, like the puzzle piece. Convenient people are not ignored, they are used efficiently, sparingly, when needed, like ketchup. They're called when someone needs grounding. They are contacted when plans fall apart. They are valued for how easy they make things easy. And if you're capable, thoughtful, steady, and you slip into the role a lot of times without noticing because you're good at it, that's why. You don't create drama, you don't demand reassurance, you don't make things harder than they need to be. So people lean on you, but leaning is not the same as choosing. Choosing has weight to it. It doesn't cost you or it doesn't burden you. You see that? When somebody is choosing you, they are grounded and they are coming towards you. They are doing work. But when they're just using you and leaning on you, you're going to feel the weight. Maybe it's in your emotional stress. Maybe it's in your pocketbook, as they say. Maybe it's in your time. Choosing means someone arranges something to make space for you. Choosing means you are considered before decisions are made, not after. You want to come along? Choosing means your absence would be felt, not just noticed. Convenience does not require commitment. It requires availability. And this is where people get stuck a lot of the time because availability feels like generosity. It feels open. It feels warm. It feels like being a good person. But availability without selection slowly drains you because you're just on standby. And most of the time, you're shocked out of wherever situation you're in to help. You didn't expect it. It's like, hey, can you do this for me quick? Hey, are you over here? Can you? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's all of a sudden. You're never chosen, and then all of a sudden you're chosen. But it's out of convenience and need on their part. You're always a backup plan, the emotional support, the safe place someone lands before moving on. And the dangerous part is that convenience often comes with appreciation. People thank you, they praise you, they say they value you, but appreciation is cheap. It doesn't cost them anything to appreciate you, but selection does. Choosing you does. Selection costs effort, risk, and priority, right? And people protect those resources carefully. Listen, I know that it may, for some people who are listening, they might feel like I'm beating a dead horse. I'm not. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm saying. I know why I'm saying it in different ways. Listen, selection costs effort. Is there effort? Is there risk? Is there priority? And people protect those resources very carefully. This is why some people stay in your life for years without ever fully committing to you. They like what you provide. Maybe they just need a little bit more money to pay the bills, so they keep you around. Right. They like what you provide, man, not what you require. And if you have ever been deeply chosen before, this contrast really hurts because you know the difference. Because you know how it feels like when someone actually moves towards you for free with no hesitation. You know what it feels like when effort does not have to be negotiated. So when that disappears, you try to recreate it, right? Maybe not with this person. Maybe you had it with that person in that different relationship, but you're trying to get that back still sometimes, even with somebody else that's not offering that situation. Maybe it was good for a minute. You thought it was headed that way, but no. So what happens to you in that situation? Well, you become more flexible. You become more understanding, bend over backwards, maybe. You understand why you got hurt in the situation more easily. It's okay. I know you didn't mean it. You're more accommodating. You think, if I make this easier, maybe they'll step forward again towards me. But convenience does not transform into choice. You're just convenient. I'm trying to make this as crystal clear as possible, guys. And I'm eating a little small piece of granola at the same time. So, sorry. Everybody knows what a convenience store is, right? Now, you go into the convenience store to get that bottle of ketchup, or are you going to the grocery store where it's cheaper and costs them less or costs you less? You go to the convenience store because it's always open. It doesn't necessarily have the best stuff that you want. It's just convenience. Ketchup is better than no ketchup, right? Convenience just settles in. It's just there. And once someone has learned they can access you without even selecting you, you're just there, you're going to hardly see them at your convenience store because your prices are too high. The pattern hardens, though, not because they're malicious, nah, just because it works. I'll call you at 12 o'clock a.m., 1 o'clock a.m. I might not call you at 3 p.m. I got more important stuff to do. This is where people usually blame themselves. And that's not what this is about. I'm here. And as someone said, I'm just sussing this out with you. You'll think that, oh, you asked for too much. They think, oh, I pushed too hard. They think they should have been more relaxed. But the truth is often simpler. They stayed available too long, way too long, after it was clear they were no longer being chosen. And that is not a character flaw, people. It is a misunderstanding of how people behave under low pressure. People do not rise to what you deserve, they respond to what you accept. That sentence makes a lot of people uncomfortable because it puts agency back where it belongs. Not in control of others, though, in control of participation. Because being chosen is not about convincing someone of your worth. It is about noticing when your presence is optional and deciding whether you want to remain accessible under those terms. That decision does not require confrontation, it requires adjustment. It doesn't usually feel comfortable. Who you answer, how often you initiate, what you continue offering. When those things change, right? It's simple, I'm telling you. Who you answer, how often you initiate stuff, and who and what you continue offering. I'm telling you, when those things change, the dynamic changes. Sometimes people step up, many times they don't. Sometimes they drift away. They usually do. But both outcomes tell you the truth. It's that simple. And the truth is always preferable to extending confusion, right? I just want to know eventually. I know sometimes it's harder. It feels harder, right? Yeah, I know. Being chosen is not louder, it's just steadier. It doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't require constant collaboration. It does not make you feel slightly behind your own life. And once you've experienced that, convenience stops feeling flattering. It starts feeling expensive. Yeah. Like I said before, the convenience store is very expensive. Moving differently becomes closed or becoming closed. This is usually where people overcorrect. They see the pattern, they recognize how much they gave, they realize how often they stayed available when they were no longer chosen, right? And the instant, sorry, and the instinct is to harden, to get angry. That's natural. Yeah. You finally seen it. It's like, oh, it's happening. This is what happened. I didn't get it, but I get it now. And usually, when you see that you've been used and you've been abused in a subtle way, it usually makes you angry. So you get angry, you're hurt, you're angry. I usually hurt first, of course, for a long period of time. Then eventually you get angry, and then you try to harden, or you harden, right? You shut down, you pull back from everyone, not only them. You decide that caring was a mistake, and that's understandable, but it's also unnecessary. Because the lesson is not to care less. No, you're a caring person. It's not to care less. That's not the lesson. The lesson is to care with awareness of what is happening. Your eyes open. Most people do not get drained because they are kind. They get drained because they keep offering the same level of access to a situation that's already changed. There's nothing coming back in. They keep operating as if the original agreement is still in place, and it's not. I know you'd like it to be, but it's not. And that's where things quietly break. Moving differently does not mean becoming distant. It means becoming selective. Be nice. Be your original self, if you can. That's difficult. That's really, 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 really difficult. But that person, it's difficult. Got history. So don't stop being thoughtful. You stop being automatic. You don't stop showing up. You just stop showing up by default. Pick your spots. You start noticing who's matching effort without prompting, who's reaching out without reminders, who adjusts when things get inconvenient. Not because you're testing people, though, because you are paying attention. Pay attention, y'all. This is what younger people need to hear. And people who's been messing up for years, like me. And what older people, I should say, wish they had learned a lot earlier and paid attention. You do not need to announce changes. I know you love it, it's your favorite, but you don't need to do it. You don't need to explain your reasoning. Your reasoning is your reasoning. You are somebody. You don't need to justify your distance. You're just moving differently, that's all. You just make it an action, not a proclamation, because proclamations lie all the time. You stop filling gaps that are not yours to fill. You stop rescuing momentum, that no longer exists. You stop carrying conversations, connections, and expectations alone. And when you do that, something interesting happens. Now, I want you to listen to this episode again. I know it's long, but I really need you to get it. Some of y'all. Some of y'all got it already. Some of y'all are gone. No, I know you're still here. Some people fade, not dramatically, not angrily. They just lose interest when effort is no longer being done for them. You see, that'll just happen with some people. And that's not a loss, it's just information for you, even though it hurts, I know. Then there's always the situation that can happen, rarely. People step forward. They're like, oh, they pull up their socks, as my mom would say. They meet you halfway. They adjust. They show you that their interest was not dependent on your availability. Those are the people worth keeping. And here is the part that matters most. You do not become cold when you stop overextending. You become clearer. You laugh more easily. You feel less tension before interactions. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head just to make sure you can get through a part. Because you're no longer managing other people's comfort at your expense. This is not about protecting yourself from everyone. No, no, no. It's about protecting yourself from repeating the same pattern. There's a big difference. Closed people build walls. Aware people change the way you can walk into rooms. They still connect, they still care, they just don't stay where they're no longer met or needed or chosen. Why am I going to go in a room if I know I'm not going to be chosen? For what? And once you experience that shift, you realize something quietly powerful happens. You were never asked for too much. You were just offering too much to the wrong places for too long. That realization does not make you angry. Well, you might be hurt. But it should make you calmer once you realize what's actually happening. But you could be angry, I suppose, after being hurt for a while. I get it. But you got to be angry at yourself a little bit too. And that sucks too. Because now, when effort shifts, you don't panic, you observe. And when selection disappears, you don't chase. It's like, okay, you're over there, I'm over here. Deuces. Other fish in the sea. That's reality. And if there ain't no more fish, we ain't fishing over here. You adjust, right? You don't have to detach. They'll detach if that's what they're on, right? You stay where you are. Self-respect. No performance. I hope you really got this. I really, really want you to understand this, and that's why I went about it the way I did today, guys. I said, listen again if you want. Maybe you listened, you're paying attention, and now I want you to maybe halfway listen again. Maybe you might hear something new. If you listen back to everything up to this point, you might notice something. There's actually no villain, no single person to blame, no dramatic turning point where everything went wrong, took a left at Albuquerque. That's intentional because most lives do not fall apart loudly. They just drift. They drift through small adjustments. They silence instead of, you know, they silence instead of maybe an argument. Through effort that slowly stops being returned. The people who feel this the most are not reckless people. They are the ones who tried to do things properly. They were thoughtful. They were patient. They gave situations time to settle instead of forcing outcomes. And that worked, right? Until it didn't. What changes things is not anger. It's recognition, realization. The moment you stop pretending not to notice what you already feel, the moment you stop translating other people's behavior into excuses that protect you hope, your hope, but cost your position. This talk was never about becoming guarded. Never. It was about becoming honest with yourself because once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. You start noticing where effort flows and where it doesn't. You start noticing who moves when things get inconvenient and who waits for you to adjust. You start noticing the difference between appreciation and investment. And the awareness changes how you move, even if you never announce it. You speak a little less. You explain a little less. You wait to see what comes toward you instead of filling every gap. Not as punishment, not as strategy, but just straight up alignment. Some people will not notice the change at all. They were never really paying attention anyway. Don't worry about it. Some people will drift away slowly. They were attached to what you were providing, not who you were. A few people will meet you differently. Few. They will step forward without being chased. They will respond without being managed. They will make space without needing reminders. Those people were always there. You just couldn't see them clearly while you were busy holding everything else together. If this felt uncomfortable to hear, guys, and girls, of course, that does not mean it was wrong. It means it touched something you already knew but hadn't organized yet. And if it felt familiar, that doesn't mean that you failed. It means you learned in real conditions, not in theory. You learned. There was no prize for being the easiest person in every room, guys and girls. I'm just saying, guys, you know what I mean. There's no reward for staying where you're no longer met. There's no shame in stepping back from a situation that quietly taught you where you stand. You don't need to burn the bridges. You don't need to announce changes. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to stop offering the same version of yourself in places where you're not recognized as what you think or what you thought. It's not withdrawal. It's just recalibration. And when you do that, as I said before, something subtle happens. Life stops feeling slightly ahead of you in so much of a chore, so much of a ways that you have to figure things out, and so much of an expenditure. You stop chasing tones that no longer exist. You stop waiting for effort that is not coming. You stop negotiating your position internally. You become steadier, not harder. And that is usually when the right thing starts to show up. Not because you demand them, but because finally you made room for them. Quietly. All right, y'all. This is it for today. Thank you for hanging out. As I said, you guys can email me at yprpodcast@gmail.com. Please, for those of you still listening, please subscribe. Please follow me. It just helps my podcast. I'm not asking you for $2. I'm not asking you for 100. I'm just asking you, just click a button. Just click a button. If you listen to me more than once, if you listen to me more than 4 times, just click a button so that at least my show can go where it needs to go. Right? Simple and plain. Anyhow, y'all, thanks for hanging out. Take care. This is MCM signing off. You're probably right. Take care. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 ducks. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon. Ooh, yeah.
It's getting late and I'm still wide awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the space you take. One day you're here, next day you're gone, and I'm just trying to understand where we went wrong. You only love me in the middle of the night, yeah, the night. Then you fade away with the morning light. I need to know, is this for real? Tell me how you truly feel. Oh, yeah. I give my all, you give me half your heart. You say the words, but we just stay so far apart. These mixed signals are tearing me down, lost in the silence when you're not around. Tell me how you feel. How you really feel. Is any of this real? Just tell me, yeah. Tell me, baby. Oh. You only love me in the middle of the night, yeah, the night. Then you fade away with the morning light. I need to know, is this for real? Tell me how you truly feel. Oh, yeah.